I saved a man's life, and I never saw him again. 10 years later, this is still the craziest thing that has ever happened to me. Asterisk when I was in high school, I took a summer job as a lifeguard at a local country club. It was one of those quiet, upscale places where members knew each other's names, and the biggest concern was who forgot their towel. The job itself was pretty laid back, mostly sitting in the lifeguard chair, keeping an eye on the pool, and greeting members as they came in. I liked the steady pay and the easy atmosphere, especially compared to other summer jobs I could have taken. Over the 4th of July weekend, the club was busier than usual. Every member was allowed to bring one guest, and it seemed like the pool was packed with families and friends soaking up the holiday. Among the crowd, I noticed a man I hadn't seen before. He was tall, well over 6 feet, and broad, probably around 230 pounds. He was jumping off the diving board, doing flips and gainers, trying to impress his friends. His confidence caught my eye. He looked like someone who was comfortable in his own skin. On one particular jump, something went wrong. He took a running start at the low diving board, but just as he reached the end, he slipped. Instead of launching cleanly, his momentum carried him off balance. His head snapped back violently and hit the board with a sickening crack that still echoes in my mind. From my vantage point, sitting in the lifeguard chair about 8 feet above the pool, I could see everything unfold in slow motion. I remember hoping that he was okay, praying I wouldn't have to do anything. There was no blood, which was a good sign, but as I watched him sink beneath the surface, I started counting the seconds. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, no movement. That's when I knew this was serious. I blew 3 short blasts on my whistle, the signal for the other lifeguards to bring the neck board, and I dove into the pool with my rescue buoy. Training kicked in immediately. The water felt cold, but clear as I swam down about 8 or 9 feet to reach him. His body was limp, no signs of consciousness or movement. Despite his large size, I managed to grab him and push both of us to the surface. Once at the edge, other guards were already in position with the neck board. We worked quickly to line up his body, strap him securely to the board, and carefully lift him out of the water. I climbed out and took stock of the situation. The dozen or so shocked faces staring back at me made it clear I was the one in charge now. It was clear he had a neck injury. That was why we used the board to keep his head immobilized and avoid further damage. But there was a bigger problem. He wasn't breathing. My teenage mind raced. I knew I had to act fast. Without hesitation, I started chest compressions. It's a brutal process, breaking ribs, feeling cartilage crunch beneath your palms, but it's what you have to do. To give someone a chance, after 30 compressions, I gave him 2 breaths. His head was already tilted back from the board, so I didn't have to move his neck. Then back to compressions. Suddenly, a little water leaked from his mouth, and he coughed. Relief flooded me, but the job wasn't over. The other guards quickly took the board and rushed him to the clubhouse while I collapsed on the concrete, heart pounding and ringing in my ears. The stress hit me in waves. What felt like minutes was probably only 6, but it stretched into an eternity inside my head. A few days later, I came back for my shift. Another lifeguard told me the man was okay, alive and well. The member who had brought him as a guest thanked me profusely, but I never saw the man himself again. Even now, years later, that day stays with me. I'm grateful my training took over. In those critical moments, maybe I didn't do everything perfectly, but I did everything I could. And in the end, that man lived. I often wonder who he was and how his life went on after that day. Did he ever know how close he came? Did he remember me? These questions linger. But what I do know is that sometimes, when you're in the right place at the right time, you have the chance to save a life. And that's something you never forget. After my shift ended that day, it was hard to fully process what had happened. I went home, but my mind was racing, stuck on that man, big, strong, yet so vulnerable underwater. I kept hearing the sickening crack when his head hit the board, and I remembered the feeling of grabbing him for the first time and pulling him up to the surface. It was both terrifying and incredible, knowing I could have lost him, lost control, or made a mistake. I also recalled the awful sensation of breaking ribs while doing chest compressions. It's not just pressing on a body. You're actually cracking bones, crushing cartilage to try to bring someone back. I could feel the crunch beneath my hands, and it scared me. Still, I knew it was the best chance he had when the other lifeguards took over and rushed him to the clubhouse. I was left sitting on the concrete, unable to move. My heart was pounding, my ears ringing, and my body drained. It felt like time stopped for those minutes. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just been doing a job. I had been fighting for someone's life. And it was terrifyingly real. Every second counted. I had never felt such an intense responsibility before. The next day, the country club manager, who was also a friend's father and had helped me get the job, sat down with me. He listened, offered support, and helped me with paperwork. Everyone thanked me, but for me, it was a deeply personal experience that I realized how important training and preparation are, because at any moment, your knowledge might save a life. Even when fear or doubt creeps in, you have to act. A few days later, I came back to work and heard that the man had pulled through. That news eased some of my worries, but I still never saw him again. He became a mystery to me. I wondered who he was, what his life was like after that day. This experience left a lasting mark on me. It taught me not just rescue techniques, but also the value of humanity, responsibility, and quick action. I will never forget that day or that man, because he showed me how one person's actions can change another's fate. Weeks turned into months, and yet, that day kept replaying in my mind like a loop I couldn't stop. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the man's limp body, the water rippling around him, the urgency in my own movements. I wondered if I did everything right. Was there something more I could have done? The training kicked in, but my teenage self was overwhelmed with the weight of life and death decisions that I started paying closer attention during my lifeguard shifts, not just watching the water, but studying people, their movements, their safety. Though I never met the man again, part of me felt connected to him. In saving his life, I felt like I carried a piece of his story with me. I imagined what his family must have felt, the shock and relief. I thought about how that moment might have changed his outlook on life. Or maybe it hadn't. Sometimes, people brush off near-death experiences, but for me, it was transformative. Every day since, I've held on to that memory as a reminder. You never know when you'll be the difference between life and death for someone else. It made me realize the power of presence and preparedness. That summer job wasn't just about earning money or passing time. It was a turning point. The skills I learned, the adrenaline rush, the human connection, all of it shaped who I am. Today, I learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it. This day, I hope the man I saved is doing well. I hope he knows, even if just by fate, that a stranger once risked everything to pull him back from the brink. And I hope that, like me, he appreciates the fragility and gift of life every day.